Call you interim from now on.
Lessons on how to say no.
He's got the sentence right in the middle. It's all you needed.
500 words.
Careful
Look at that
consideration,
tie.
not the candidate. That's all you needed.
If
That is something.
I could have everyone's
Talk about a
attention,
power tie.
please, and we'll call the meeting to order.
I
This
do
is
like
the Resource Management and Administration Committee of Grand Traverse County. It's January 11th, 2012, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if the clerk could call the roll.
Commissioner Fleece,
Present.
Gilman,
Here.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman,
Here.
Lemkool,
Here.
Maxbauer,
You know they
Thomas,
Blair?
Thomas is here.
Wheelock,
Waving his finger.
Yes, ma'am.
Richardson.
Here. Okay, our first item of business is the approval of the minutes from December 14th.
Move for approval as presented.
Support. Okay, I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Supported that.
I made a motion.
Thomas made second.
Okay.
Or Henschel.
I know, 3 of them did.
Okay.
Your call.
Okay, this brings us to the first opportunity for public comment, and I will say that public comment will be solicited throughout the meeting. So if there is a specific issue you wish to speak on, you'll be given an opportunity to speak then, or as I say, we have general public comment now and also at the end of the meeting. The clerk would read the rules of public comment, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners, which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act as amended. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. 1, any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. 2, no person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. Chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak.
Okay. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment at this time? So step up to the table. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Gore-Follette, 4240 Hearthside Drive, Garfield Township, Traverse City, Michigan. As all of you know, Linda Coburn has decided to retire at the end of this term, and she has asked me to run for her seat. And after much contemplation, I have decided to do so. So I am here to introduce myself to you all and to let you know that I intend to run for the position of Grand Traverse County Clerk. Some of you may know me. Some of you do know me. I have been a member of the NMC Board of Trustees. I've been elected 4 times to that board. I'm now in my 20th year there. I'm currently the president of the local Zonta Club. I've had a 20-plus year private law practice here in Traverse City. I also work as a guardian ad litem for the probate court. I'm a 4th-generation native cherry farmer from Old Mission Peninsula, graduated from Traverse City High School. My family is here, my husband of 33 years, my adult daughters, and my grandchildren. I'm committed to this area, and I'm committed to service, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity to get to know each of you better. And if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to make public comment at this time? Okay, then we'll move on to the approval of the agenda, and before I get a motion for that, there is one item. It's a item about accepting a grant from Delta Dental Foundation.
Where are you going to put that?
F.
That's a good question.
Put it
F new
at-
business.
Yeah, why don't we put it under,
Or do you want to put it on Department of Activities?
let's put it under new business, but let's make it the first item under new business.
Okay.
Commissioner Maxbauer.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like to add an agenda item. I would like to have a brief discussion on the possibility of hiring a search firm in our search for a new county administrator.
Okay. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
Yep.
Commissioner Henschel.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda with the addition of the Health Department grant and a discussion of the hiring process.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we'll put that, I guess we'll put that at the end of new business, Commissioner Maxwell?
That's fine.
That's all right? Okay, which, we have evidently no special orders of business, so that'll bring us now to the consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Commission on Aging Monthly Report. Number 2, Resource Recovery Managers Report. Number 3, Veterans Services Monthly Activity November. Number 4, Road Commission Monthly Report. Number 5, Conservation District Monthly Report. B, approval. Number 1, Fiscal Year 2011-2012 Child and Adolescent Health Center Grant Agreement, Traverse City Renewal. Number 2, Fiscal Year 2011-2012 Child and Adolescent Health Center Grant Agreement, Kingsley Renewal. Number 3, Health Department Rotary Charities Grant Request for Acceptance. Number 4, Resource Recovery 2012 Hauler Licenses. Number 5, Human Resource Letters of Agreement regarding 2012 health insurance change to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Number 6, Resource Management Administrative Meeting Dates for 2012. Number 7, Purchasing Policy.
Okay, is there any member of the public who would like any item on the consent calendar removed for further discussion? Okay, seeing no one. Any member of the board? Commissioner Maxbauer?
Under receive and file, number 1, please.
Okay, we'll put that under item C on action. Anyone else?
I don't want to remove it, but I have some additional information on the Conservation District. How would you like me to handle it? At the end, or?
Why don't, after we approve the consent calendar, I'll give you a couple minutes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Talk about that. Yes?
Just a reminder on our standing rules and Robert's Rules of Order. The board had a special meeting that was a special Board of Commissioners meeting where the board did approve moving forward with Dean Bott as the interim director and having him having the ability to gain assistance wherever necessary and coming back and ratifying that with us, as well as Jen Seaman proceeding with the search process and continuing to advise the board as she goes through those stages. And according to our rules, it would take I believe a 2/3 vote from that meeting and the following Board of Commissioners meeting to overturn that decision. What does it have to do with the topic at hand?
No,
I'm just saying that she wants to talk about a search firm.
She's talking about adding the agenda item, and we did vote on that, didn't
The
we?
agenda is passed.
I understand, it could be on the agenda, that's no
But we're talking
problem.
about consent calendar now. I don't understand why you're saying this now.
No. I'm saying it because reminding the board as chairman
Oh.
that we have a standing rule that once we adopt something and approve something as a commission, and it was done in a special commission meeting, that according to the rules and Robert's Rules of Order, our rules, that if any change in that direction
would require a 2/3 vote at that meeting and at a following Board of Commissioners meeting. Otherwise, you would have to wait 60 days to put it on the agenda.
Because we specifically took a vote on
Correct.
whether we're going to hire a search firm.
So I want that as advance information before we
Okay,
discuss it in advance, a search firm.
So it seems that when we get to that point in the agenda, Commissioner Inman, that the first issue we'll have is whether, my brain is escaping me tonight. What's the term I'm looking for?
Well, a motion to reconsider.
Yeah, a motion to reconsider on the previous action.
Correct.
But we'll do that, when we get there.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, going back to the consent calendar, is there anyone else who would like to remove anything? from the
Mr.
consent
Chairman, I would move to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item A1, that being the Commission on Aging's monthly report.
calendar? I have a motion by Commissioner Wheelock, support by Commissioner Lemkool. Any discussion? Oh, there isn't any discussion, obviously. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call, yeah.
I
Simple
left
mistake.
it at home tonight, I'm sorry.
We all do
Down that
that.
road.
Commissioner Gilman,
Yes.
Henschel,
Yes.
Inman,
Yes.
Lemko,
Yes.
Maxbauer,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece,
Yes.
Richardson.
Yes. Okay, and before we take up item A1, I did promise Commissioner Lemkool a few comments on the Conservation District.
On the Conservation District, we've always given you a report about what has happened in the past. I've asked Tree to look at what are you planning to do in the future, and what are your plans for the Conservation District. So I'm asking him to come on a regular basis, to come in when he gives us a report, to talk about what they're going to do. And so I just wanted to alert everybody, he's come up with a great goals of how they're going to do different things, their strategies and everything else that was presented at our board meeting for the Conservation District. And so next month, I'm hoping that he will bring that forward to you, and so that you'll have a chance to see what is it the Conservation District is planning to do, not what is it that they have done in the past. So if you have any problem with that, please let me know. I think it's a better way to go forward with what our expectations are.
Okay. And now, Chris, the Commission on Aging monthly report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I removed this is really not for your purpose so much as for the public's. We all read our packets, but for the public, I want it noted that the Senior Center Network received a donation of $55,000 for their building fund. There was an editorial in the paper today about the generous people in Grand Traverse County, and this is an example of that. And I just wanted the public to know about that donation, and I also wanted to comment on the Commission on Aging staff and the volunteers. Over the holiday season, the Commission on Aging staff put together 105 baskets of bounty for low-income seniors. This was done with donations, volunteers to deliver, volunteers to put the baskets together, and I just wanted to mention that. And next Christmas, if there are any extra dollars in anyone's pocket, Commission on Aging puts them to good use with baskets of bounty. And with that, I would move to receive and file the Commission on Aging monthly report.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion support. I did have one question, comment, or whatever, Chris. Since you brought up the report, on the page that struck me, the clients by township page,
Yes.
which shows a steady increase in clients every month throughout the year. Is that unusual, or?
It's not necessarily unusual. It varies. I mean, that's basically all I can tell you. And quite honestly, please forgive me, I was not at that meeting. I was at our organizational meeting.
Okay.
But I think, don't quote me on this, I think that includes some of the senior center clients that we have. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know because basically for for the benefit of the public, it was almost a 50% increase from January to November.
And I will tell you,
And
there,
it's a steady increase. I mean, every month it goes up.
yeah, and I will tell you, there is a question on some of the numbers that was asked at the executive committee last month, and I don't have an answer for that yet.
Okay. Dennis, did you have a comment on that?
No.
All right, we have a motion and support on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, and that takes us now to department action items. Human Resources, the Health Department staffing report.
Good evening, Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director. This is Brad Kiesler.
We didn't know who he was.
And we're here for, in addition to the Health Department staffing plan, this is to add a .5 FTE social worker to the plan. And it's due to, as it mentions in the packet, a 10% increase in the caseload. And the position will be funded by a combination of the fee-for-service Medicaid revenue for client visits and the Medicaid cost settlement revenues.
Commissioner Fleece.
I would move that we approve to add the .5 FTE social worker position to the Health Department staffing plan as recommended.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item of business will be the administrator's update.
This will be very brief. First of all, we're making good progress on the health building. The walls are up. The first floor walls are now going up. A lot of the excavation is done. The basement excavation is done. This new wall system that we're using where we pour inside the insulation allows us to continue to work. And of course, the good weather we've had has made this project move along very smoothly. We've run across a couple small issues to this point in time, primarily regarding the elevator. We spec'd out an elevator, and we are having some discussions with the general contractor about that, but we expect that has either been worked out or will be worked out in the next day or two. They will follow the specifications. I don't think there's any problem with that. So the project is moving along well. I'm not aware of any problems that we've had to this point in time, Fred. Are you? Fred goes by there for us pretty much and checks on it every day to make sure they're keeping in line.
Well, yeah, I generally go to EH anyway, so obviously I'm going to look, and then we have weekly updates with the contractors, about an hour and a half to 2 hour meetings. The project's working along well. If to kind of describe this, these styrofoam blocks are kind of like huge Legos, and they stack these together and pour the concrete in between, so there'll be 12 inches of concrete. There's little plastic things that hold up the re-rod in between those, and they just pump the concrete in. I'm sorry I had a picture, I had one, I didn't bring it. But anyway, so the lower level, which is about a third of the building, the walls are up, the footings are in, and the footings are in on the east side of the upper level. So when they finish those footings, as I understand, then they can put the walls up to the roof line, pour the concrete, and then put a roof on, and then they can pour the floors, because they want that covered, obviously. And then they can start the interior.
Once we get the building closed in and we've made some progress inside, the intention is to invite the commissioners out to meet with the contractor and do a tour of the building so you can see the progress that we're making. So we'll let you know as soon as we can.
And before then, just give me a jingle. I can take you over there and see from a distance. I mean, you don't want to get right in the hole.
If you go with Fred, wear your boots.
Yeah. I guess I'm concerned about the lack of marketing on this. I see the Social Security office seems to be getting a lot of publicity. Even the business news talked about all the different building projects. None of them were talking about the health department building. I'm just wondering if we can't maybe do a little more to let the people know that this building's on track and how it's coming along. maybe just doing a short news release about the status of it and let them know what's going on?
We're glad to do that.
No problem.
And Fred, if you have your community resource person work on this, would appreciate it.
Yeah, I gave her some photographs this morning to post on our website and Facebook. The elevator thing is that, and I don't know which way it is because I'm not sure, is that the two low bidders were Otis and Schindler. And Schindler was $3,000 less, so that's what they put in, and it said their equivalent. There was a little bit of concern about it, but then we learned over the weekend that either Schindler bought out Otis or Otis bought out Schindler. And so...
Schindler bought out Otis. While the contractor was going to put in, wasn't going to go into that detail, but while the contractor was going to put in the Schindler elevator, the building was spec'd for, the well was spec'd for Otis elevator. Well, it's a moot point at this point because they're both owned by the same company, and they're going to it may be an Otis elevator that has a Schindler name on it, but it's going to fit the specification, so it'll be fine. And our concern was, all our other elevators are Otis. We didn't want to get in a situation where we've got 3 or 4 different elevator companies maintaining elevators. This way, it'll be the same company, and it should be no problem.
And actually, those two companies have serviced each other's elevators before this merger, so. But we didn't know that at the time. So there's going to be all these things. And then the other day, we wanted us to pick out the color of the concrete in the floor. We saved some money while we did that, and so it's progressing. It's just good that we have a good architect keeping it attractive.
Thank you, Fred.
I happened to come by there this afternoon, and the foreman on this project and I have done a number of projects together before, so I stopped and gave Jeff a hard time, and I thought we should at least be in the dry by now, with this weather, but no, the ICFs look great, they're up to ground level. That portion of the building that has the basement is kind of going to have to stop for a little while because they're waiting for the floor trusses. Until the floor trusses come in, they won't be able to do anything in that portion, but they are going to finish up the other portion that's on slab construction on the east side. So, all in all, it looks real good, and, I think it's going to be a huge asset to our community.
I apologize if I start reminiscing over the last few weeks, but there's never been a time where we built a building where you haven't expected it to go up at least 6 months before it actually could be completed. But I appreciate that because you've kept us on our toes and made us keep working. So it's been good that you've done it. So I'm glad to see you haven't changed your position on how quickly we should build.
They did pour 127 yards of concrete yesterday in the ICF.
Wow.
And that's pretty good.
And every bit of it was pumped, so, they were 10 hours pumping concrete yesterday.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job.
The
We're
weather
really
has
happy.
been on their side.
Yes.
All of our
Theirs and mine and anybody else's.
We've been on hotels.
The second issue I just want to brief you on quickly is that we're working on the transition plan. Dean and I have been meeting every day along with Jen, working through this. Last Friday, John Syke and Dean both came to the dam management meeting to get up to speed on that. We're going to, at least initially, Dean's going to go to those couple management meetings, but John is going to be his backup. We're working with the departments to prepare for this. I'm meeting with all the departments. We usually have a management team meeting once a month. We're going to increase those to every 2 weeks from now till I'm gone, so that we can make sure that we've got everything on pace and everything's in good shape before actually leave. And then we'll have a department head meeting coming up here. I think it's tomorrow, actually, isn't it? Tomorrow, where we'll meet with all the departments. So that's moving along well. And then finally, I want to let you know that the team, we have a team that's been working on recommending to you an equalization director. That team is made up of Bill Rokas, the treasurer, Dean Bott, the Deputy Administrator, Jen Seaman, Human Resources Director, and Ernie Kachalia, who is the GIS Director but is acting Equalization Director, and myself. And we have interviewed, completed interviews, and did a second round of interviews, and we're going to be ready to make a recommendation to you. You remember that this is an appointment you have to make. So we're going to prepare a recommendation for your Ways and Means packet that you'll receive on Friday. It'll include our recommendation and the resume of the individual that we're recommending. We're inviting him to come in and meet with you next week in Ways and Means That'll be your opportunity to ask any questions that you may have of the individual and to kind of do your interview with him. And then hopefully, when you've completed that, you'll find this person acceptable and be ready to recommend their hiring. But that will be a decision that you make, and we'll be here to justify our recommendation. But I wanted to give you a heads up on that and let you know that the resume and everything will be in the packet this weekend, and then we'll be available the first part of next week if you have any questions before the individual comes in to, and please bring your questions next Wednesday night. So that's moved along, and we hope to complete that, at your discretion as soon as you're ready. And that's really all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Dennis, by anybody? Okay. Anyone wishing to make public comment about any of the issues right now? Okay, thank you. Okay, that brings us to unfinished business. I believe there is none. And the next item of business is the Delta Dental Foundation grant, amount of $5,000 for dental education in the Kingsley classroom.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve it.
Support.
Motion by Lundquist, support by Thomas. Fred?
Pick one.
Well, is to promote oral hygiene is in collaboration with the college's dental hygiene program. They have some practical time that they can donate to augment this.
Okay. Any other discussion? Is there any public comment on this issue? Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
Okay, now, the next item, actually, there's three separate topics, but they're all related, and these are put on the agenda because I have heard from a couple of you folks that, you thought we should at least have a discussion. So at this point, I'm just looking for a discussion on the issue, specifically county surveyor, drain commissioner, and county clerk and register of deeds. And the reason for this is because we have a time frame where if we do make any changes, we have to get started, within the next few weeks. I'll start with Commissioner Inman and then go to Commissioner Maxbauer.
Okay, if I can make a brief remark on each one. Regarding the surveyor position as an elected position, as you know, during the last election cycle, the surveyor made a request to the county that since he was considered a county elected official, that we should pay him benefits and a salary. And I'm not sure what exactly else was involved in that process, but we had a legal opinion that said we had to provide that to him as an elected official. That was a surprise to the Board of Commissioners at that time, and the information that came back to us from legal counsel was that prior to the election cycle of his 4-year term, the county board can elect not to have an elected county surveyor and contract that out and bid it out. So my recommendation, and then I'll move on to the next subject, I just want to personally know how you feel. I think we should abolish the election part of it and contract out for that position and bid it out.
Mr. Chairman, can we?
Hold on a minute. Are you going to start commenting on something other than the surveyor?
I'd like to just briefly make
Could we take them one at a time? I think it'll be a lot less confusing to all of us.
Well, because other people might have different viewpoints on different other topics on
Well, I'd
different
still like to
Well, let's talk about the surveyor
Okay.
and then
And then-
see if
and
there's
then-
any
and then
kind
you
of
would return back to
consensus,
me?
and then we'll go back.
All right, okay,
I'll
that's
start off
fine.
with you.
Okay.
Commissioner Maxbauer is next.
Commissioner Inman, your memory's slightly different than mine.
Okay.
We've always, and Dennis can, I'm sure, correct me, and recalls this accurately. I'm not sure I do. We had a county elected surveyor, but it was never a salaried position. And once we made it a salaried position, and I was not in favor of that. I'm still not. Once we made it a salaried position, then we were required to offer benefits as well. Am I accurate or inaccurate here? Do you recall?
There was always a salary, but there
Yeah.
wasn't a benefit package attached to the salary.
My recollection is somewhere in between, but the bottom line is this. You are both correct that once the new prosecutor came in and looked at the position at the request of the surveyor, he said that it's an elected position and as such should be entitled to all the other benefits that elected offices are entitled to. And that's where he came up with that we had to do the benefits. So I can't recall, I know that we paid a stipend.
We did.
And we paid two stipends, actually. There was part of it that was a salary, and there was a stipend for administering the remonumentation program. And he said that needed to be put into a salary, and when we did so,
Oh,
that's
that's
when he
what we did.
came up with the thing about all the
That's exactly right. We
benefits.
combine
Well,
those two together.
in that case, I am opposed to continuing making this an elected position.
Okay, Commissioner Hensel, and then Wheelock, did you?
I just wanted to comment, I mentioned this Monday night at the East Bay Township Board, in my commissioner report, I mentioned it, and I actually mentioned it again at Union Township, and that we were going to have a discussion, only a discussion, on the possibility of cutting down the number of elected positions, and, in the interest of making county government more efficient. And the response I got, the comments were very positive in favor of making government smaller in general, and one person actually come up and told me that they own a surveying company in Grand Traverse County, and they have no idea what the county surveyor does. So.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock?
Well, I think, in all fairness to the county surveyor, we should note that he does keep the historical records of the surveys of the county. And he's always been available to do that, and he's done a great job with that. Whether there's a purpose for us to have a county surveyor, we've had this discussion at least 4 years ago, and I think we had this discussion 8 years ago, 4 years before that. So we've had this discussion on multiple occasions on whether or not there was a real purpose for us to have a county surveyor. One of the reasons that we had previously elected to keep the county surveyor was the remonumentation program. But I think we all have come to realize that, we're 20 years into this program and we're not halfway through it, and whether or not we will ever get all the way through it, So, obviously I instigated part of this, so, I'll tell you, at least in my opinion, the purpose to have an elected county surveyor, I just don't see the purpose. Then we need to have a real discussion about whether or not we want to participate in the remonumentation program. Because we take a grant for that, and then that is bid out and it's given to 3 different surveying teams companies throughout the community, and they go out and spot 12 corners a year or whatever it is that they actually identify. And that's what the money that the state allows for the remonumentation is. We've talked about it on various occasions. If we truly wanted to get the remonumentation done, should we bond the cost of the total project, get out there and get it done, and figure out a way to pay it back with the grant over the next 15 years or whatever? That's another whole discussion, and at the same time, when you're talking about the remonumentation program, you should talk about whether we should be setting GPS coordinates with these at the same time, and we don't do that. So, at least from my perspective, I don't see any reason for the 2012 ballot to hold the position of a county elected surveyor.
Me too. Herb?
What's the process that we would have to go through on this? Could we make a motion tonight, or would we have to I don't see where we have to do a public hearing.
We have to make a decision by May 15th.
But we just have to make a decision, so we could make the decision tonight.
I believe so.
April 15th.
It says.
I would,
May 15th it says.
I thought it was filing.
that does seem to be the consensus of the board.
Yeah, we wouldn't know that by the end of the
Since we
month.
don't have a time, under a
Crunch.
time crunch here, my suggestion would be, let's bring it back a month from now at RMA, when we have time to review what the resolution should look like with the attorney and so forth,
That
to make
works.
sure we get it all straight.
Make sure we have the process
And I
correct.
believe
But-
we should give Mr. Mitchell the opportunity to be here and speak to
right.
that.
Yeah,
also.
I'm actually surprised that some of these folks aren't here. Yes, Jason?
Is this not something we could take up on in our strategic planning? I mean, as looking at it as a big picture kind of item, it might even be appropriate then?
Yeah, I don't know how much strategic planning was involved here. I think everybody seems to think that it's, we don't need it, and it's just a question of how we get from point A to point B. Some of the other issues here maybe are a little more complicated,
Sure.
like the combining of the register of deeds and so forth, I did have a couple questions. How much money are we paying this surveyor?
Do you know the amount? I want to say it's around $8,500. It might be a little bit more than that.
But plus all the full benefits, right?
Plus the benefits, plus he actually is one of the 3 surveyors chosen to do the remonumentation work, so he gets some money as a
But the
part of that, too.
remonumentation money is not our money per se. That is a grant. That's the only money we spend on the remonumentation.
The remonumentation grant covers a part of the salary. It does not cover the full cost of the salary and the benefits, and Dennis is correct. The salary is about $8,500. With the benefits that we're paying, we're probably around $11,000 total cost. Don't quote me on that, that's not exact, but that's pretty
So are we letting the $8,500 that we pay him cover his work on the remonumentation?
I don't think so.
That,
I mean,
Yes.
are we paying him in addition to the,
He is, go ahead, Dean, I'm sorry.
we have the cost built into that activity or cost center, and we charge the maximum amount of administration against the grant that we can, but the balance has to be covered by a county general fund appropriation.
So that covers the administration of the remonumentation program.
Correct.
right?
But then he is paid an additional amount for the 10 or 12 corners that he sets each year, along with 2 other surveying firms.
Okay, so he's
That's
paid-
always been the issue that I've had with it, and that is that he manages the program, he lets the bids, he determines how many corners everybody gets, and then he gets 1/3 of those corners.
Okay.
And that's based on a fact that, and that's legal, based on the fact that under the remonumentation program, it required that you do QBS bidding when the program started almost 20 years ago, and that was done, met all the laws, and the 3 firms that were chosen, not by him, but by a committee, were his firm and 2 other firms. And it was never required that it be rebid, and we talked about that several times over the last few years, whether it's time to rebid it. And so everything is legal. I want to be clear about that. He did everything legally, but to me, there's something very convoluted about the idea that the person watching it is the...
Okay, but,
Yeah.
but to clarify, the money his firm receives for the remonumentation is in addition to the $8,500 in salary?
That's correct.
Okay. Commissioner Maxwell?
No, that's what I was
Okay.
going to
I
say.
have one
Thank
other
you.
question then, Dennis. And I don't know, maybe I need to address this to Bob Cooney, but it talked about if we do not have an elected surveyor, we will need to appoint a surveyor, which I
Yes.
assume would be some sort of a contractual thing.
Yeah, well, if you decide to look at this in a month or whatever, my suggestion would be that you allow staff to put together the analysis for you that shows the pros and cons, and it gives you the options of what you could do if you decide not to have an elected surveyor, so that you have that laid out, and you can kind of see what kind of savings there might be,
But if we appoint a surveyor, that is not the same as the remonumentation administrator.
Well, they talk about...
According to the memo here.
They talk about appointing a surveyor for surveying project, for county surveying projects. I'm not aware of any county surveying projects that we've done. What we do...
Road Commission has one.
The road commission
The road
does
commission
surveying.
has one that's a county project, but the road commission has a surveyor on staff.
And I believe one of the options you might have is to look at asking the road commission to act as the surveyor and compensating. So that is one option. But we don't really have county, from our responsibility, surveying projects. So in fact, our surveyor, our county surveyor de facto does remonumentation, and that's pretty much the scope of the work. So we would have to appoint somebody if there were surveying projects. We already have that in the road commission. So we would have to appoint somebody to do remonumentation.
We don't have a surveyor.
No, you laid them off, right?
Yeah, you contract when you need a surveyor. Yeah.
Okay, but, and I know it's been heard, but according to the memo here, it sounds like a remonumentation administrator would be folded into GIS if we didn't have the county surveyor.
I believe that could be, yes, that would be true. You could do it that way.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the other concern I have is the records. as to making sure that we have the records, but also we have the space to put them. Because he is the keeper of those records, he has those records, and we don't. And so I think it's really important that whatever we do and however we look at how we get those records to us and where are we going to store them.
And this is more involved than what it may seem.
That's right.
The records that he has as the county surveyor, the vast majority of those records are records that he has purchased himself in his company, and they're used as a basis for determining corners. And each surveyor, as he explained it to us several years ago, builds up their inventory of information that helps them set corners and allows them to do so more accurately and more easily. So when you talk about county records, someone's going to have to get in there and determine what are actual county records, and they would certainly be all the actions taken by the peer group in approving remonumentation corners. But that's going to have to be distinguished from records he purchased to help him in assisting in putting corners together. It's going to be, it's easy to make the decision, but it's more complicated in terms of how
I don't want to
you
get into a
administer it.
situation like we did with the Department of Public Works.
Yeah.
With their attorney.
Chris?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. In my opinion, we need to stop this now. And we need to make a determination in some way, shape, or form, what are our records and what are his records. And I agreed with Dennis on this issue. I don't like the fact that the elected official and I know it's legal, administers 1/3 of the contract to himself. I just think that there's a better way to do it.
Okay. So do we need a motion, or is it enough to just suggest to staff that they do an analysis?
And we'll
we
put
can
it on
bring
the
back in a month?
RMA meeting in 1 month.
We also need the legal process, whatever legal process we would do in terms of public hearing notices or declarations or
Oh,
whatever.
the staff can do that.
And we'll ask the attorney to be here next month.
Okay.
All right. fine.
Ross, the lady in the front row.
Oh, I'm sorry. You have a, please. No.
Noelle McNeil, 2875 East Railroad Avenue in Interlaken, Michigan. I'm a scientist. I don't know what remonumentation means and all the rest of the stuff you guys are talking about, so I get a little lost. So when you guys are talking, if there's a big word like that, if you could kind of explain it, that would be greatly appreciated, and I'm sure the rest of the public would appreciate that too. But my other question was, I'm just a little confused as to public records and the surveyors' documentation that the county, I assume, owns, being in somebody else's building. That just seems a little odd to me. As a public, I would think that if there was something, not that I'd know what I was looking at, but if there was something that I'd like to look at, I'd like to think that I could go to wherever and be able to look at it. I don't think it just seems very odd to me to have these files in somebody else's possession, so.
Well,
Do you want to briefly describe remonumentation?
Yeah, very briefly, the surveys were established well over 100 years ago, and the state undertook an effort almost 20 years ago to say we're going to remonument, we're going to go back and we're going to check all those original monuments to make sure they're in the appropriate location and make sure they meet all the plat definitions and all the property definitions. So they undertook this program, and it's paid for by fees collected through the Register of Deeds to help pay for resurveying the whole state. And it was supposed to be done over a 20-year period of time, and what they're finding is because of the way the revenue's coming in, it's almost been 20 years and they're only about halfway done. Every county has undertaken this, and the idea is to go out, find the corners, use old research, use historical research to find the corners, replace markers, and then eventually GPS all those corners so they'll be there in perpetuity. Thank you. That was a tough one. So that's kind of what the program is about, and that's what remonumentation is, and each county is in the process of doing so. In terms of your question, the actual remonumentation corners that have been done are located in our equalization office.
Okay.
And so they're there and they're available for the public. But all of the documentation that's done to develop those corners are done by these individual surveyors, and they have reams and reams and reams of historical information that they've collected by over, 100 years of collecting information from others that surveyed and road commissions and others, and they build their own files. And what that does is that helps them be more accurate in their business when they're surveying for individual pieces of property that might go up for sale and things like that.
So if we're paying them to do this, wouldn't those documents then be ours?
Yeah, not the documents that they use historically to come up with the
Okay.
corner, but
The information that
the
they-
information that, yes, they are ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we have that then?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, those we have.
Dennis, just one big clarification. About 4 years ago, if I remember correctly, the state of Michigan was collecting enough money to be able to do the remonumentation, but they took that money and put it into the general fund and didn't give it back to us like they were supposed to. Those counties that had a plan that could go forward were supposed to be able to get additional funding for additional remonumentation and couldn't do it because the state took that money because they were so in dire straits that they put that money back into their general fund.
Okay, are we good on this one? All right, then let's go on to the next item, which would be the drain commissioner. And my understanding on the drain commissioner is that unlike the surveyor, we have to have an elected drain commissioner. But I guess there is still some question about how much we have to pay him or how we define his duties and so forth. So go ahead, Larry.
Dennis, sometimes it's difficult to get to a final conclusion of a legal opinion. And I'm assuming that when Bob says 2/3 of the counties have drain commissioners, he's telling me that there are counties less than 12,000, and they have a standing resolution of a 2/3 vote to abolish the position. So is that what I'm reading here, is that counties are required to have an elected drain commissioner?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
There is one other option. Well, actually, there are two other options.
Transfer to the Board of Public
One,
Works?
yeah, you can transfer to the Board of Public Works if you have an elected chair of the Board of Public Works.
Well, okay, all right.
So you basically have a higher level.
Well, given that fact, I would guess I would just continue my favor of having an elected drain commissioner. And, and a secondary viewpoint is that in that kind of a position, I think you need somebody with some independence in terms of evaluating the requirements that someone would need to develop property, and whether the drain commissioner would be required to do a review and examination or have requirements of a development. And I guess I'm still in favor of having that level of independence for an elected official to be a drain commissioner.
Sonny?
Well, I guess, I probably read this differently than other people do, but what I understand from this requirement is that we have to have an elected drain commissioner, and that elected drain commissioner is responsible to manage and administer the public drains and drainage districts within the county, which there's only about a half a dozen of. The rest is maybe, I know there's less than 10. Or at least I'm pretty sure there is. But my key point is that most of the work that we are charging our drain commissioner with is the administration of our soil erosion ordinance.
That would be true.
So the fact is, we could, should we choose to, we could have the elected position with whatever value it has to administer the public drains as required by the law. We could take the soil erosion ordinance and either have it administered and enforced by our planning department or by our construction code department. The concern that I have is we have a drain commissioner's office that funds itself about 10%, and that's not simply not enough revenue coming in for what it's administering. But that's because of the amount of time and labor that he spends administering the soil erosion ordinance. So, and the other thing is, if you could combine it with the soil erosion piece with construction code, when someone wants to do a development, they go one place, they get their construction code permit, they get their soil erosion permit, and you don't have, like we have right now in a area that I know of very specifically, that they have now come in and the development's 10 years old, and all of a sudden the soil erosion department has determined that their drainage ditches aren't big enough. And now they want them to re-engineer all of that, and he's suggesting, the gentleman that's doing the inspection is suggesting that they go back on the engineering firm that engineered the drainage ditches because they're not big enough to handle a 100-year floodplain coming from adjacent property, and it's just a mess. But, you know, that, to me, there's two separate pieces in the drain commissioner's office. One is the part that's required by law to be elected, that being to administer the public drains. We can't do anything about that. But the soil erosion piece, in my mind, should be combined with construction code because that's where the development happens.
Dick?
Well, the other portion of this is lake levels. And I can't tell you how many lakes in the county that have established levels, but I know 2 of them. And he has the authority to establish special assessment districts for those levels. And they are established by court order. Silver Lake is one and Duck Lake's another one. And I don't think there's any way we can take that out of his hand. But he does have the authority to maintain that lake level, and more important than that, he can assess everybody on it for upkeep of the dams or whatever.
Because, well, if you look at the last paragraph on the memo that Bob Cooney wrote, it talks about if a drain commissioner performs functions other than acting as a drain commissioner under the drain code, including but not limited to lake level and soil erosion enforcement and facilitating compliance with Federal Clean Water Act mandates, you could actually, up the level and call him a water resources commissioner. I think, water resources commissioner instead of drain commissioner. Still an elected position. And I guess the question is do you want to combine on, basically codify all those functions in that office, or do you want to do as Sonny suggests and, make the drain commissioner just the drain commissioner and find other ways to deal with the soil erosion and so forth? Chris?
I'm in favor of leaving it the way it is. I think it works well. And I will tell you all, I've been on the receiving end of running water, as were my former in-laws, the Moxes, and my next-door neighbors, the Lalondes. We lived at the time at the bottom, and 2 of them still live there, at the bottom of Huron Hills. And I'll tell you, those drainage ditches were not big enough. Moxes had to reseal their entire basement. Al Rice did it. Lalondes had to put in drains around their entire house. And I had to dig up my entire yard, sprinkler system and all, and install French drains. Jim Alpers did that. That's what happens when you don't have deep enough drainage ditches. And I think the system that we have is working very well, and I'm not in favor of changing it.
Now, I think also the drain commissioner is an integral person in removal of the dams that we have, the Boardman Dam and Sabin Dam of the county. I'm not sure exactly how that fits, but he can be the final decision maker on how those dams are being taken out, but we're doing it through a public process, which I think is the best way to go about doing it. So, and Kevin is on that committee and is an integral part in making those and how we get those taken care of.
Larry?
And I want to thank Sonny for reminding me that the board has asked him to do double duty on that soil erosion piece. And in the last 4 years, I've I've gotten some input from some folks that needed some assistance, and I've gotten a hold of Drain Commissioner Kevin, and he's just called them up right away and provided real quick an evaluation and worked with the owners, and so I think he's done a good job in terms of responding to the public and making good decisions. So I agree with Commissioner Maxbauer. If I had my preference, I would keep an elected position, and I would keep the combination of the soil erosion responsibility with him.
Rob?
Do we know approximately what it costs us for that position? Or what does the job pay, I guess?
I don't know exactly.
Somewhere in the low 60s plus benefits. What's his whole department about?
The entire department budget is approximately $270,000, and this year it brought in revenues of just under $80,000.
Okay.
So it's about a 25% recovery. Most of that its fee revenue is the soil erosion. Permit.
My recollection is the salary's in the 60s plus about a 30% benefit package, so.
Jason, did you?
He has one other person in the office, or two? One, isn't it?
There's a couple
Two.
part-time.
Two.
And plus, I think he has a secretary or something like that.
There's a clerk and a half-time soil erosion person.
Right.
Dylan back is half-time?
Yeah.
Dennis,
I thought there's a lady, though, too.
That's the clerk.
No, I thought there was a
Gwen
lady out
Zagor.
in the field.
Yeah, I thought there was a woman.
There's a lady out in the field along with Dillingback.
I thought there were two field people plus
Right.
a clerk.
That may be. We can check for you.
Is the soil erosion piece working for you, Dennis?
Yeah, we get no complaints about that. I've not had any issues with it.
Do you know if there's that much work that's developed on the
But we've
soil
taken that
erosion?
staff from 2.5 or 3 full-time people, not counting the clerk in the office, and now it's down to maybe 2. 2 part-time and the drain commissioner. So we've reduced that staff down. And so I've not heard any complaints from people about the work getting done. As with any office, I think it's important that we regularly check to make sure that we're not overstaffed or that the staff is working at full level, and that's something that I think we just have to constantly watch with all departments.
All right. Okay, so moving on to the third one then, the combination of the county clerk and register of deeds. Now, in this particular situation, there are requirements to have a public hearing, has to be scheduled so many days in advance, and a decision has to be made after the public hearing in a specified time frame. So we still have ample time to deal with it, but it would have to be done probably within the next month or so. Go ahead, Larry.
I just want to provide a little bit of history and my personal opinion. When I first got on the board, this came up, and it had to be about 18 years ago, something like that. And the board back then did look at, based on our population market, whether it would make sense to combine the county clerk and the register of deeds based on the population back when I was first started on the board. I would say at least 18 years ago, because it was like a map, like I just walked into a hornet's nest as soon as I got on the county board. And there are some very strong opinions by the public back then, and also by the township clerks, that they felt that the offices shouldn't be combined, and they made their case for that, and the board back then made a decision not to move forward with combining them. And I think in all fairness to Commissioner Wheelock or whoever else, I think, we do owe a sense of due diligence to look at all these offices to make sure that, they're warranted and we've got them structured properly. With this particular situation, based on all the information I'm receiving from the county clerk and the register of deeds, that they are at their maximum level of workload compared to their staffing levels. and especially the county clerk, having to deal with court records, and the amount of time that they spend in court records and with elections, that I think based on our population level of 85,000 and potentially moving up, I would not want to see those two separated because of the amount of work and staff levels that they have. And I think it'd be a mistake to put one person in charge of of both departments, because I think you would end up having to hire additional staff as supportive to share in some of the responsibilities, especially, I believe that, Dennis, the Register of Deeds does not have a deputy, is that correct?
That's
Or
correct.
does? That's correct, okay. So I think the Register of Deeds would have, I think that based on my feeling at the moment, that there would not be a cost savings to look at that. And this could be one of those things where we could ask staff to do a quick analysis for us and bring it back to Ways and Means. But I personally, at this point in time, am not in favor of separating the two offices.
Combining the two offices.
I'm not in favor of combining them, yes.
Sonny?
This was, when we started this, or when I started this, because obviously my name's on the front of this initial memo, I had just looked at other counties throughout the state that have combined positions. As I continued to research, I find that, in our case, so much of our clerk's responsibility is tied up with our courts. And they just simply, we're probably, the amount of money we could save by combining the two probably isn't worth the grief that it would take to do it, just because of the amount of clerk time that is tied directly to the courts. Like all these other ones, Larry said, I just think it's important for us to periodically look at all of these positions and make sure that we're evaluating them properly. No different than, we're going to have a lot of discussion about the positions that we commissioners sit on in the next couple months too, because the fact is, after this next election cycle, going into 2013, there will only be 7 of us instead of 9. So whoever the 7 are sitting in these chairs are simply not going to be able to make 146 committee appointments. Can't happen. We can't, so unless somebody's got a lot more spare time than I have in my world anyway. So, we need to make sure that we regularly evaluate these positions and evaluate our personnel and our departments. And that's why I asked this question.
Jack, and then Larry. You have a comment?
Well, I did have my hand up, but I will make a comment.
I thought you did. I'm sorry.
I think that if we made a change here and combined them, I think the roar that would come from all the township clerks would be terrific, because the county clerk does so much, helps them so much at election time and other times. The county clerk is a real help to the township clerks, and if you want to hear a bunch of noise, just suggest it. 'Cause I know what the ones that I know would say.
Yep, maybe a hornet's nest.
Yeah.
Larry?
I'm absolutely not in favor of combining the offices. Both have their areas of expertise. I think both do an excellent job, and I agree with the 3 former commissioners that spoke wholeheartedly, so I'm absolutely not in favor.
Chris?
Well, we have a consensus here, I think, because I'm in agreement with you. I do have a question, though. Peggy Haynes did reduce her staff. She eliminated a deputy position, and we approved that. And I've heard absolutely no indication that there is a need for a deputy from Peggy at all, but if that deputy position is reinstated, the board would have to approve that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Because I think it's working fine. I've heard no complaints. And I have a real estate license, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I first, when I first heard about the possibility, I thought, well, if we could save some money, why not? But honestly, the fact that Peggy doesn't have a deputy, so if you combine the elected offices, you're going to basically have to hire a deputy to run the Register of Deeds part.
That's right.
And so any money savings pretty much go out the window.
It's gone.
You just have one less elected official, basically.
Same question again. Approximately what does that position pay, the elected Register of Deeds?
My memory is that the Register of Deeds is the same salary as the Drain Commissioner, so somewhere in the low 60s. So.
I want to make a correction. Jen Seaman just reiterated the fact that there are the same number of positions in the Register of Deeds office. One was just downgraded from a chief deputy to a clerk.
Oh,
So we did not reduce them down by one. But I will tell you that this has been an issue that's studied over and over with county administrators over the years, and we've had many opportunities to talk with those counties that have done the combination, and in almost every case, they have told us that the end result was very little in savings and much more complication in terms of getting the work done. So I think that you're on the right track in regards to this one.
But it's still a discussion we had to have.
Absolutely.
At this time, I'd like to take public comment on this issue, and honestly, I did not take public comment on the Drain Commissioner issue either, so if anyone has any comments on either one of these, feel free. Okay, seeing none. Okay, so we'll let that one go, I guess.
Okay.
And then, okay, Herb, National County Government Month.
For many years, I have tried to get our county to do something with county government. I think that we are probably one of the most misunderstood group of people as to what is it county commissioners do. And I think that the National Association of Counties always has this particular program that we can get into and start to let the community know. Some county governments open up their offices and have tours or something like that, or commissioners go into the schools and to visit the kids and be able to talk about what county government really is all about. But, I know that we're going through a change in our administration, so it's kind of difficult for us to throw that back onto them. But this year, the 2012 theme is Healthy Counties, Healthy Families. So I'm thinking that if we could work through the health department and have them to come up with something to promote what county government and the health department is all about, and also to pass a resolution. In your packet is a handbook for additional material that we can get from NACO to be able to do this. But I really think that we need to look at in April to do something to let the community know that this is National County Government Month.
Larry?
Well, why don't you call Dennis had his hand up first.
Well, my comment just after hearing Commissioner Lemko would be, I think that's a good idea, and I think they could very easily highlight our two youth clinics, the one we have in Kingsley and the one we have with the TCAP schools and the ISD. I think we could tie into that the new health building we're building to provide better clinic services, and also the fact that we're going to be expanding our dental clinics to those in need from, I think it's 8 to 11 or 9 to 12 chairs. So, I think there's a number of things that we're already in the process of doing that we could use to kind of celebrate that. And since they have the community outreach person, I'm sure we could do some good press on that.
Sitting on a number of boards with the National Association of Counties and my affiliation with them over a number of years, county commissioners come together from all over the country and talk about common issues and how they want to approach those. We try to feed off each other in terms of best practices and those kind of things. But there is an underlying theme with just about every county, and that is the challenge of how do you communicate to your public about what the county does, all the county departments, and what does a county commission do. So, when I'm out socially or at business or, doing something in the public sector, public situation, I always get the question somehow of what does the county do, what does the county commission do, what departments come under the county commission, and what are the responsibilities of those departments. And everybody thinks, that we have planning and zoning, and we have all this authority, and I said, really, most of the authority lies with the local units of government, and, basically, we got Parks and Rec and the Sheriff's Department and some mandatory requirements to pay for courts and those kinds of things. So I think picking a topic each year that we can concentrate and do some public information on and work with NACO, I think would be a very positive move on our part.
I guess the only other thing, and Dennis is absolutely right, and this healthy families thing is a perfect place for us to jump on, because not only are we expanding the health department, these things that Dennis mentioned, but we also can talk about the coupon program that our health department uses, whereas people can double up their money to use at the farmer's market to buy locally fresh food, and the programs that we run with that. The
prescription cards.
The prescription cards. We truly, it's very difficult for most of us, but I think this is an opportunity for us to blow our horn a little bit and let the community know what we do that is a benefit to our community as a whole.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to work with the PR person and talk about some of the opportunities there.
Absolutely.
And see what we can do. I'd like to see a different PR release every single week for those 4 weeks in April to talk about some of the things that we're doing. So we'll see what we can do.
I'll contact Fred tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Herb?
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, if you can,
Yes.
you might broaden your horizons, and instead of just doing 4 weeks, why don't you look at 52 weeks? Because people have short memories. And by the end of May, when summer comes, they're not going to remember what you did in April.
I think that's what Herb's talking about, though. I mean, I think I view it from what he said and other things he said tonight, because he pointed out that, Social Security office got all this coverage, and we're building this big health department building, and, no one's even really noticing, so.
But nobody's driven into the county health building angry over their disability.
We don't want anybody driving into it either.
That was on the other side of town, and it's not even, and they're just running.
So I understand what you're saying, but also I think if we can work with department heads to talk about some of the things they might be able to do during National County Government Week, and then also what can they do to talk about their departments throughout the year.
Yep, that's the key.
Earlier this evening, I was down at the Paradise meeting, and there were some students there from Kingsley School. So I took the opportunity prior to the meeting to converse with them about civic responsibilities in townships and counties. And much to my amazement, they're there on assignment, and I don't think they were too interested in what the county did, because I didn't get one question.
No kidding.
Well, I did. I take that back. I did get one question, and the question was, would you sign my papers? I can't.
Okay, I'll take public comment at this time.
I actually think that it's good that you guys are talking about this, because I'm kind of being thrusted into the county commissioner and stuff, and trying to figure out what the job of a county commissioner is. And quite honestly, it's very overwhelming. And I'm amazed at how much information you folks know. And I'm telling them to write things down, like drain commissioner, write dams, and things like that, because there's so many things that the public doesn't understand that you guys do, and they need to know. You guys are representing them. And if the goal would be to get more people from the public in here to listen and to take part in their own lives and help you guys make some of those decisions, keeping some of the things that you guys are talking about simple and straightforward as possible would definitely help. And, this is probably, I think, my second meeting that I've been to, and the first one, I was really rather fed up and annoyed at the bickering and all that, and there's just no need for that. And I think that's definitely a turnoff. If you're going to get people in here to listen to what you have to say and to take note of some of these important issues, you have to make some changes, and not just changes in your PR stuff, but also your changes in how you treat one another, the way you discuss things, and I guess that's a lot of what I'm here for, is to understand what you guys are doing. And I don't want you to waste my time by the bickering. I want to know what's going on in my county and understand it in a way that is not going to, quite frankly, overwhelm me or blow my mind. So I think that it's good that this was actually brought up at this point, because I really do want to, maybe I'm not the average public person, but I am here and I want to listen and I want to learn. So any help that you guys can give me or the rest of the public in trying to understand what's going on would be greatly appreciated.
Great, thank you.
Can I have a remark on that?
Yes.
As you know, I've been advocating for some time, and because of budgetary reasons, we haven't been able to consider it. But I'm aware that most counties have a public information officer, and it's not meant to be a public PR person that is there to put icing on a cake that might be, sour or not sweet, but it's there to provide the public with access to information on the, both from a website to all the electronic means of communication, to getting information out, press releases out to the all the media stations and everything about what all of our departments do, and all the positive things that we do for the public, rather than relying on someone coming in and wanting to do a particular story on a particular issue from time to time. And there are counties and cities that have a same arrangement as us, that are housed in the same building, and they share a public communications person, and they share costs of that. So I've always been an advocate for the board, and we've done a great job, believe me, in increasing our communication to the public by being, number one, televised, number two, having the webcasting option, on our site, and trying to get as much information as we can on our website. And that the commissioners do go to all their township meetings, and we do try to make ourselves accessible to the public when we get called at home and those kinds of issues. And I just want to make that plug again. I know that we've got more budget issues coming at us, but a lot of counties do see a lot of advantages in having a public information person. And if at all possible, for example, if the city and the county could take a look at sharing that responsibility with one person. I know the health department has an information officer or some kind of position that is an education person, and we've talked about the possibility maybe of having one person, instead of one person in the health department, but one person that could assist all the departments with public information and press releases and those kinds of assistance. I think that would be a great item, as Commissioner maybe Gilman brought up, that we could bring up again at strategic planning. But she brings up a good point, and I think there's just not enough we can do in terms of trying to provide an outward reach to the public in terms of what's going on. And sometimes what's printed in the paper or printed or talked about in the media are the things that get people excited or upset. But we do so much good for the community, and all the positive things we're doing for programs and services and support and those kinds of things in our daily responsibilities on this board that never really get out, and the stories are never told. That hopefully someday we find the time and funds to make something like that happen.
About 4 words, well, maybe a little more than that. You would be surprised, as most people would be surprised if they followed us around, how many hours we spend doing this job.
Oh, yeah. Full time.
Yeah. I'm amazed at the people I know that where were you this morning? Well, I was at a meeting, you know, and it just goes on all the time. It's a lot bigger job than what a lot of people think. And I think the general public, you know, we're just sitting here, that's all. Yeah, well, no.
Well, and that's part of the thing, is that we don't understand what you're doing. And we need to know, we elect you.
Yeah.
And you're here every Wednesday, and then you're here, I don't know how many other meetings,
Quite a few.
Yeah.
quite a few meetings, and
I'm in here about 4 days a
you're doing a
week.
really good job, and nobody knows it.
I'm in here about 4 days a week.
I appreciate those comments.
Yep, thank you.
All right, so, yes, do you have public comment?
My name's Andy Merrick. I live at 2875 East Railroad Avenue in Interlochen, Michigan. And we're all here because I decided I'm going to run for county commissioner, and it has been a learning experience. I spoke with Commissioner Thomas last night at Blair Township meeting and was amazed at how much time is involved in the position. You know, as a citizen of the community, we think it's a once-a-month meeting that you guys go to and get these big paychecks. I didn't know it was paid until the other day. That you guys volunteered to do your work. And the more I see about what you do, I understand why it's not a volunteer position. And I'm amazed at what you guys do and how much knowledge it requires you guys to have to do the job that you do. So I've learned a lot, I've gained a lot of respect for what you guys have done, and hope that I continue to learn as I go through this process, whether I get elected into the position or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, the next item is, that's my agenda. There it is. The resolution on Fife Lake Township, and,
I can
go
speak
ahead,
to that.
Larry.
Okay. I was approached by Joseph Jones at a Fife Lake Village meeting, and he is a representative of the Fife Lake Public Library, and they're putting together a committee to celebrate their 125th anniversary, which I think is really a cool community thing to do.
I remember when we started.
Yeah, you were just born probably, weren't you? You probably went there.
Checked out this
And so in any event, they want to plan a number of community celebrations, and they were wondering if it's possible for the Board of Commissioners to provide some acknowledgement of their anniversary. And later on, as they put together more of a plan that entails, you know, what the actual celebration will be and how they might approach it as a community. He had asked me if I would be willing to approach the board on a resolution simply acknowledging their 125th anniversary, and, you know, a little bit of history in terms of the library being, and you see this resolution in your packet, a schoolhouse in 1945, and that the benefits of the local library since 1887, which is incredible. So I asked the staff to work with Mr. Joseph Jones and the Fife Lake Township and see if they could come up with a proposed resolution that the board would support. So we are submitting this proposed resolution to you tonight for consideration, and then they will be contacting us with their later plans on how they want to facilitate their celebration, and maybe we can get more involved at a later date.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Seconded.
Second, okay, I have a motion by Thomas, a second by Gilman, and
Obviously, Larry must have participated in this resolution because it's at least 75 words longer. It would have been.
if I could make a comment, assuming that this passes, and I can't imagine that it won't, but for the end of the month meeting, when we actually, you know, finally pass it out,
I give a copy to them and let them see
I
it.
would hope that you would invite them to come and have a little presentation.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
And actually read, I mean, there isn't that much of the resolution, but read the resolution in full detail.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
I don't see any reason to do it tonight, but at the end of the month, when more people are watching.
Yeah, can we make that note for the end of the
I'm making it
month?
right now.
Rob?
I've been attending the Fife Lake Township meetings as that the redistricting, I would be the only commissioner in that, sitting commissioner in that district. So in thinking ahead, I've been attending those, and it's a really neat community, and when you attend the meetings, they've got this kind of stuff on the wall, and they've got some really old pictures, really neat stuff. This is the kind of thing that will be on their wall for many years to come. I think it would be really cool if we could all participate as far as signing it. It'd be a really neat snapshot in history of when Grand Cherokee County had 9 commissioners.
Well, good idea.
The part I like about the resolution is the fact they established the library with a $17 grant.
Yeah, the only thing I see that's missing here is it doesn't talk about the people of Fife Lake Township and how they have been, I'm sure there's many volunteers, many people that have really put their heart and soul in this particular community and into the library, and I just don't see where it gives them that kind of recognition here.
Well, it does in that it talks about the new facility built entirely with grants,
Yeah.
individuals, in-kind donations, and a huge accomplishment for a relatively small community.
I just thought it needed to be more, and I don't care, I mean, it just, I think that we ought to recognize those individuals a little more, or not the individuals, but the community as a whole, because they have supported that library.
Larry?
What I might suggest, I'm sorry, wrong Larry, go ahead.
Commissioner Inman, my preference would be not only to have the resolution, but I'd like to see you talk to your contact down there and see if he would like us to schedule, or their group, a board meeting down there like we used to do. And Fife Lake's about as far away from Traverse City as you can get in Grand Traverse County. I think that would really be neat for their 125th, and give them the option to see if he'd want to do something like that, and maybe they could build on that.
And you remember that we used to have good turnouts down there, too.
They always
Oh,
have
yeah.
some years turnout.
Always a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Do they
I
bring
think-
food?
Yeah. Well, let me
we
work on that in terms of how they want to structure the celebration and stuff. And
Sure.
And I think what they want to do is they want to give an invitation to all the commissioners to attend the celebration, the evening celebration, and maybe that's how we might.
But I think it'd be kind of neat, offer him the suggestion if you would please, because I think it'd be kind of neat if they could schedule a board meeting down there, because
It would have to
like
be a
Dick said,
special
you're
board
going to
meeting.
get a lot of people there, and even Commissioner Max Barrow testified to that. We found her wandering the streets of Five Lake lost. We had
I
to pull
was
her in.
lost, I couldn't find it.
It would have to be a special board meeting, because we already have our board meetings already published, but.
I heard they were scheduling a dunk tank for that evening.
I'll bring my camera.
So,
Anyway, we do have a motion on the floor.
okay, all right, that's fine.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
No.
next we have, actually, 2 separate items. It's on the agenda as one item, but I thought we had taken care of this at the organizational meeting on the 3rd, but after having a conversation with Chris Kramer today, it seems like those of us who are being appointed to specific terms on specific boards
Oh, yeah, that's
needed
right.
to be detailed that way. So
Motion to
that's-
approve.
That's why this is.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve and support the appointment of Larry Fleece, Rob Henschel, Larry Inman, Christine Maxbauer, and Ross Richardson to certain boards for certain terms. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Yes, Sonny.
Mr. Chairman, in regard to the 2012 liaison assignments that are on page 65, I would suggest or ask commissioners to continue to make their current appointments, but I'd like to evaluate this entire list as part of our strategic planning session.
That's
Because-
why the list is here,
You know,
actually.
because, like I mentioned earlier, when we go from 9 commissioners to 7, we're not going to be able to get all these places.
Right. Well, the reason this is here is because, we really have about 6 months to sort of sort this out. Because I think we probably pretty much need to have it done by the middle of the summer or late summer.
Well, realistically, in my mind, it should be done by the 1st of May, in that people who are filing to run for these seats next year or actually later this year, should know what their responsibilities are going to be.
But I thought about, did we want to appoint an ad hoc, but it seems like actually all 9 of us need to provide input to this.
Right, I
So
agree.
here's the list. I think Chris Kramer is working on, a list of those that are required by statute, and then the varying other degrees of, of representation that is needed. Obviously, we're all serving on some of these boards. Some of us had served on other boards, previously. And if we can just, sort of have just a compendium of, we need, this is important, our representation is needed here, this one not so much, and, why the heck we're there, no one can even figure kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
But I think we need to streamline the amount of service that we're being requested to do here. Herb?
Yeah, I brought this up before, and it still hasn't seemed to be taken care of, that, up until this last year, I've been appointed to the Pavilions Board, and this does not recognize that I am being appointed to the, so therefore, if I'm not being appointed to the Pavilions Board, then I won't go to it.
No, yeah.
But I think we need to.
There's a little miscommunication going on between your understanding of the Department of Human Services, because I went over with this with Chris and asked her to call you. The Department of Human Services is the Pavilions
No,
Board.
it is not. There's 2 separate boards.
Well, there's two separate
meetings.
boards, yeah.
Yep.
But they're the same individuals.
Same appointment.
They're the same individuals, but they have 2 separate meetings, and sometimes they're in 2 separate locations.
One's with Don. with
Because
Rockland.
Department of Human Services is a 3-county Department of Human Services. The Pavilions is a single entity.
The board is the same, but the board meets with different people.
Right.
Yep. Different staff members and everything else, so.
Exactly why we have to talk about these one by one going through the list. Because those of us that have been participating in these particular groups
I thought the Department of Human
have
Services
the best
They meet
information about
consecutive.
how regularly they meet and what they do.
But it is, but sometimes, not when I was there, but sometimes they change locations.
Yeah, and I think the previous person that was doing this went to both meetings, I believe.
Yeah, they do.
Well, we
Yeah.
do,
Right.
but
Yeah,
So I would
Ross
just-
did
I would
at
just-
both meetings.
I would just continue to do that.
Herb's point is that it only listed as one board, and
Yeah,
technically it's 2.
technically it's
Technically, it's
2.
2 boards.
Well,
Because,
we can make that change now if you want to.
No, let's just.
No,
wait for this
it's
department plan.
it's part of the general review.
Okay, all right.
The other thing,
no, because if you don't appoint me to it, it's not listed, so
Are you
therefore I can't put a per
Are you
diem in
currently
on it.
going?
Huh?
If you're currently going, I would ask that you continue to go until we have opportunity to review these assignments.
But these are appointments, these are assignments, and I'm not assigned to it.
Are you putting in for 2 per diems, Herb? Because I only put in for 1 when I was doing it. Go ahead, Chris.
another thing that I think we need to look at is whether or not these are open meetings. And quite honestly, I am assigned to the Tobacco Task Force. I don't think I've ever seen a posting for it.
Yeah, there isn't.
And
Do they meet?
yes, but it's not a regular meeting.
It's not a governmental unit.
It's occasional. And so one of the things that I would like to know is whether or not these are, government appointed, or government open meetings, or whether they're just some kind of group that gets
Consortium,
together.
Consortium in the community.
Yeah. Well, I feel the same way about my appointment on the TARP board. It's
Yeah.
obviously not a public agency.
See, the 211 task force doesn't meet.
So I think we need to make that
Those
distinction.
places where I'm a liaison,
what-
I don't
what
have
I'm
a vote,
asking
I
you all
don't
to
need to
do-
be there.
What I'm asking you to do is homework, okay? Sit down with a list and start making some notes and, so forth.
Yeah, so when you go, so the people, if I understand, is the people that are on a sign, if they could go back to them and find out exactly what the structure is, and if they're governmental or not governmental, if they have oversight and.
Well,
and
Chris is going to come up with some of that, but I think I'm looking more for,
We could probably help her with that.
personally, and obviously, I'm only one voice.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm looking for, how important do you think as a member that, a county commission be assigned to this seat?
Okay.
Jason?
I'd just like to note for those interested in running for the county seat, this is one of those things, it would do well for you to come to our strategic planning meeting in Wash, because this is one of those areas where, as a new commissioner, you find out we're involved in a lot of things. I mean, this is one of those expanded operation situations. So anyhow, I just wanted to make a note of that.
And I would like to echo that, you know, people think this is a part-time where we go to a couple meetings, and, you know, some of us average 20 to 30 meetings a month, and they might last 4 hours, and then we've got packets to read, and we've got calls at home and emails, and we're asked to go to other events that aren't listed here as public officials. So, you know, my opinion, it's a full-time, 40-hour job, and that's just unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
Okay. All right, are we all good on this then? Moving right along. Okay. The strategic planning 2012 discussion, the discussion is about when we're going to have the meeting. And part of this is started out because Commissioner Lemko was going to be gone for part of February. So originally we were talking about Saturday, January 28th, but that didn't work because of one of our members. So right now we're looking at Thursday, January 26th in the evening from 7 to 9 p.m.
Works for me.
Is 2 hours enough time?
It could be.
Or would we be better off starting at 6?
Well, if it's not, we'll schedule another meeting
Or
a
it could start
couple
at
months
6
down
or
the
whatever.
road.
Okay, Thursday, the 26th, what was the time again, please, Ross?
7 till 9.
Or we could start at 6, that's fine.
We can run later if we have to as well. I think
Yeah, we
it'd be
can
easier to
do
run it later than start earlier.
I'd rather go from
Sonny,
7 till
You should
whenever.
have it on your, right there on your desk.
Okay, we don't, so no one
Is
is aware of any
everybody's calendar good
conflicts?
for that meeting?
Yeah, I'm scheduled.
My calendar is at home. I honestly don't know
Okay,
if I
well,
have a conflict.
I responded
It's
to
not,
the
it's
email
not
earlier
officially
that I
set
could
yet,
do the
so if there's a
28th, but
problem,
I'm gonna go.
let Chairman Inman know,
Or Linda Nelson, she's really
or Linda
coordinated.
Nelson,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you could please let her know tomorrow, because, you know, we're obviously coming up against these
I'll
dates.
email her tonight.
I mean, you have to understand that Commissioner Inman called me this afternoon with a choice of 3, and I shot down 2 of them. So so this is the one we have right now. This doesn't work, we'll have to go back and look a little further.
I responded to the email about the 28th.
And I said,
about
oh,
6:30
okay, we're
this
down to
morning,
1.
So you were all in the same boat.
I called Commissioner Fleece, and I said, how about these dates? They work good. Called their RMA chair, and he goes, well, City Commission meets on Monday and this and that. I'm like, you know, we totally forgot about that, so.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the hit, and so is Commissioner Henschel on Fife Lake Township on that. We'll explain it to him if we meet on that evening. They'll understand.
Yep.
Okay, now that brings us to the final agenda item, which is the one added by Commissioner Maxbauer. And in light of what Commissioner Inman said, what we need initially is a motion for reconsideration.
All depends what she wants to say. She might say, I don't want it, I like it. I mean,
Well, no,
what's her opinion?
she's already asked, she thinks we need to hire a search firm, which is
I didn't
not-
say that.
No.
Oh, you
But-
said you wanted to discuss it,
I would like to
but we did take action
I just would
on
like
our
to make a brief
methodology.
statement. I understand.
So,
Yeah, I think
all
it's fine.
I'm
Don't
saying
want
is,
me to, I
since we passed the motion, the place we start is you make a motion for reconsideration.
No. If she wants to make a motion for reconsideration, she just wants to make a public statement.
Yeah.
So
You
she
just want to
doesn't,
make a public statement?
yeah, if she doesn't
It's
want
on the
to make, she
agenda
doesn't
as
want to change the
discussion,
direction.
that's
then
all.
Well,
she-
technically, you have to have a motion on the floor to discuss it, so.
No, I
this
think
is
you
something we've
don't.
already taken action on.
No, I
Discuss
think,
stuff all the
Commissioner
time. without a
Maxbauer,
motion.
what's your pleasure, henceforth?
I'd let her have the comment.
Pick on her, jeez.
Are you sure? I mean, I won't take more than 3
No,
minutes.
No, that's fine, go
You're
ahead.
on the
Okay.
clock.
All right. I really, I'm not prepared to make a motion right now, but I would like you to think about maybe some of the things I've been thinking about regarding a search firm. First of all, I think this is probably the most important decision that's going to be made for Grand Traverse County over the next several years. And I believe we all want to do it right. And I also believe that every single one of us sitting here has a vision for Grand Traverse County. We are here because we want to make it better. We believe we can make it better. I think our differences are how. And I think in order to hire the best administrator for this board, I think we as a board need to sit down and define what we, as a board, not individually, want in a county administrator. And I'm not talking about a job description, I'm talking about a vision, and how to get there. So I'm having second thoughts about my vote on not asking for a search firm, and I may ask it to be put on an agenda for another meeting, and I'm done. Am I under 3 minutes, Commissioner Thomas?
You got 2 seconds left.
Okay.
Commissioner Hedge.
Thank you. Actually, Chairman Inman, when I first saw that we were talking about not hiring, I was kind of surprised, hiring an outside firm, because you talk so highly of our administrator, Dennis Aloya, and that's how we got him. So I guess I'd be open to looking at it, and it is an important decision. And I had no idea Christine was going to bring this up, but that's been floating around the back of my head is, well, last time we got a really good administrator by doing this, but we're going to do something different this time. It's just, it's I guess if you're going to get the advice of somebody, sometimes it's worth what you pay.
Sonny?
I guess the comment that I would make is that we had this discussion a week ago. We directed our HR director to go out and advertise for this position. Using the information that we had, those advertisements have been sent out. We hired an HR director that had previous national experience. We've charged her with conducting the search. I believe we should let her conduct the search. Now, and the one thing that I can tell you, if you add a headhunter to this program, you're going to add 3 months to your process. I truly believe that doing it the way we directed it to be done last week, with the HR department doing it, that we will have a new administrator sitting in this chair by May 1st. I firmly believe that. But I can tell you, you're going to be late into the summer, if not next fall, before you have an administrator here. Because first thing you got to do is go select a headhunter. And it's another 3 months added to the process. And I have all the faith in the world that we're going to get this done with using Jen and staff to do it.
Commissioner Inman?
I heard from the last meeting, and again, Commissioner Fleece and I had kind of a combination thing. We thought that by using Rothschilds as either a primary or secondary source to help staff with assistance if needed would work either way, and really we were looking just for a team effort. And what I heard from all 9 county commissioners was, at the end of the discussion, we were in total agreement that we had and I heard Commissioner Maxwell say, I have 100% confidence in Dean Bott and Jen Seaman to do this job and to do it right and to assist us with this process. And the fact that Jen Seaman had the professional experience from a recruiting firm really added a lot of significance to our decision, along with Dean Bott's years with our county in assisting us with the budgetary, but also he's the deputy county administrator, and he has been there in Dennis's absence, and he's done a superb job in covering us during this period of time. So I think the board has made the best call at our previous special board meeting, and Sonny's exactly right that we would add 2 or 3 months process to go out and actually bid out the process and then receive requests for qualifications and then take a look at their costs and then have them come in for an interview process and then select one of them. And guess what? They're going to do the same thing that Jen Seaman's going to do. She's going to go through the same process they're going to go through. And a lot of counties, I talked to Jen several times on this, and
Larry?
a lot of counties. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute.
We don't have a motion on the floor. I mean, if we're going to have this discussion, the least we can do is act on a motion.
No,
we don't
have a motion.
Honestly,
we can have. Mr. Chairman,
we're going to be another 15 minutes talking about
the board
nothing.
can have a discussion on any item they want without a motion. And the fact that, I kind of lost my point based on what you said, but the fact that Jen Seaman would be going through the same exact process that a professional search firm would do, I would not be in favor. And most counties, from what I understand, have switched and not gone to professional search firms, and they've gone to an in-house search. So I've got all the confidence that Jen can do what a professional search firm can do.
Jason, you might as well weigh in, too.
I'd just like to take 5 seconds to restate my confidence in the staff that we have.
Okay. So basically, Commissioner Maxpower, you can make a motion for reconsideration now, or you can put it on the next meeting's agenda. Okay?
I would like to add, I do have 100% confidence in Jen Seaman and Dean Bott, and I don't mean to insinuate otherwise. My reasoning for a search firm is I just thought it would define as a board more what we're looking for. And it would add a dimension, that's all.
Okay.
And I'm not prepared to make a motion, and I'm shutting up now.
I totally understand that. I have two concerns. I have Sonny's concern about the amount of time that we would spend, because I think we can do this quickly, especially in these economic times. But I'm also concerned that we did address this issue in a special meeting and made a decision. And now it's exactly 1 week later, and we're already talking about whether we should reverse it or not. So anyway. Okay, everybody good with that for now?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think it wouldn't hurt us if we had a special meeting to talk about what we would want to have in an administrator, and have that part of a discussion, and maybe Jen could lead us in that discussion or even Dennis or somebody within the organization. But I think Jen would be more than capable of leading us in the discussion about what is it that we want to see in an administrator when she's looking at the applications. And I think maybe we should do that as either part of one of our meetings, or have a special meeting for that, or do it as part of our planning meeting, that we can do that too.
Okay. Personally, I'm not in favor of that, but if that's all what y'all want to do, then we just want to do that.
My understanding is that we try to resolve that in the position description, and that we were going to try to be judgmental based on business or county experience or whatever, and that Jen was going to lead us through a series of stages of processes to narrow down the applications, and that's the exact time that this board would have to discuss the qualifications of the applicants and what they're looking for. So I think we have that as a part of the process that Jen has suggested already.
My personal feelings are once we start looking at actual real people, then it'll sort itself out pretty quickly.
Exactly.
We may not all agree, but we will know which ones we like and which ones we don't. Okay. This is now our time for, I'm sorry, no, we don't have a motion on that. It's time for second public comment on any issue of interest to the board.
Mr. Thomas has.
First.
I'm sorry.
All that. Dennis Aloya, 4075 Aspen Ridge Road, Traverse City. I'm speaking for myself personally. This past Sunday, there was an editorial in the paper that I take great exception to. That's not the first time. This happens regularly with me in the paper, but in this case, I felt there were too many misstated facts, and I didn't feel that I could let them go after 10 years of being here in the county. So I'm going to take a few minutes and talk about them. I'll try to be brief. In the article that's titled, Grand Traverse County Must Embrace Change to Break with the Past, there's a paragraph that says it appears to be the final act of the Childs Aloya era, which stretches back to 1976. I want to point out that in 1976, I had just graduated from college, and it's 25 years later when I came to Grand Traverse County, so that's quite an era as far as I'm concerned. It says Childs endorsed Aloya to replace him when he retired in 2001. That's utterly ridiculous, and it's not the truth. And I think it'll be borne out in facts stated by commissioners. I was told personally that he was not a part of the process at all, and in no time had any discussion with Mr. Childs. My understanding was I was picked by the board unanimously by a 9-0 vote without any comment to the board from Mr. Childs. And so I take great exception to that. In the next paragraph, it states that instead, the board turned to the person who would be expected to take over on a temporary basis, the county finance director. I find it interesting, first of all, I find that the only accurate thing in this editorial. And secondly, I find it interesting that the email that I sent to the county board earlier that day, where I said I would not take pay for work I didn't do, my second part of that email was that I recommended that they hire Dean Bott. But this article doesn't state that. That happens to be factual, but it also is the recommendation I made to the board. And I find it interesting that they neglected to put that in the article. When we talked about the taking pay without working, it says to his credit, Aloya said no, but that doesn't change the fact, and so on and so forth. That's the only thing, other than the fact that Dean should have taken over, that's the only thing in this article that I can actually find that they got right, that I did say no. It said, topping the agenda for a new administrator must be fixing convoluted committee and board arrangements. Well, I think it's interesting. First, I'll say good luck. And secondly, I want to say that's not an act of the county administrator. The county runs the daily operations of the county. That is a decision that has to be made by the county board and the boards, those local elected officials. And here we're talking about at least 5 townships, sometimes 7 townships, and the county coming to agreement on this issue. And that's a much more difficult thing to say, but it's a lot easier to blame someone. And I hope that a new administrator who comes in does not get charged with fixing that situation. He's not going to have the authority to do so. He doesn't have the right to do so with townships that are part of that committee. Just to move on, he talks about, this editorial talks about the fact that we prepared a job for the county brownfield redevelopment director. It says the description for the head of the program to perfectly fit Child's former secretary. Well, what it neglects to say is that when I eliminated the deputy administrator's job, which previously did that work, that our office manager took over that work as she'd been assisting him and did that part-time. What we found was that that was not at all appropriate and didn't give us enough of the work that needed to be done. So we tailored the job from the sense of doing the same kind of work but on a bigger scale. The thing that we changed was actually, instead of requiring a bachelor's degree, we said it could be a degree. And yes, that did fit what Jane Dorinzi did, and I'm very proud of the fact that we hired her. She's brought millions of dollars into the county. If we would have said it required a bachelor degree, we probably would have been criticized for the fact that we were going to pay somebody more when we were spending less. So I think that was very glad, and I'm very proud of that fact. And it just so happens it was Jean's, or it was Ross's secretary, was also my assistant. And frankly, it was a good decision on the part of the county, and it served us very well. And actually has cost no taxpayers dollars, and I think that's important to point out. It said the county board ordered Aloya to hire a top professional to create a long-term business plan for a septic plan. The county board absolutely said they wanted a long-term plan developed, a business plan. But the county board put no money up to hire anybody to do a business plan. They told the Board of Public Works to hire someone to do a business plan. It goes on to say that after 3 months of no action, it neglects to say that that was not my no action, although that's how it sounds, that the no action came because the Board of Public Works could not decide which way they wanted to go. And they finally decided to hire Ross Childs. Okay, it says, I decided to hire Ross Childs. In fact, several places through here it says Dennis Aloya hired Ross Childs. And if you go through the records, you'll see that I had no authority to hire Ross Childs, and in every case, he was hired by contract with the Board of Public Works. They're a little confused. They don't spend a lot of time watching these things and attending the meetings. And so I could see where they'd be confused by that. But the fact is that while I was responsible to manage the director of the program, they were hired by contract, and the Board of Public Works is the one who hires contract. So I thought it was important to point that out. It goes on to say, it has been the county board, that the county board has been, there's a second thing they got right. It has to be said that the county board consistently gave Aloya high marks. That's true, you did. I like the part that they said, instead of the county board gave, they said it has to be said. They don't really want to say that, because there's nothing really they want to say nice. But they have to say that, because it's fact. They got that fact right, and I appreciate that, and I thank them for doing so. You know, there are a number of things in here that are insinuation and twisted fact, but you know, that's what makes for sensational reading. And that's what this paper has to do in order to keep their readership up, which is constantly reduced, and that's what they have to do to keep people that are uninformed interested. And I just take great exception to the fact that they can get away with that. Rothschild served this community for 27 years, and then he served it for many years after that. How much would we have had to spend with professionals to come in and do that work if Ross didn't volunteer to do that? He didn't have to do that. And the kind of the insinuation that there's some kind of an era. I love this idea that Ross and I have developed this era here in Grand Traverse County. You remember the other day, Mr. Childs told us he has worked and helped and assisted counties in hiring 28 county administrators in this state. Think about that for a minute. Think about the tentacles that Mr. Childs has spread out into this state. I mean, you know, this conspiracy could be much bigger than just Grand Traverse County. And I'm amazed they haven't gotten to that article yet, but I'm sure they will at some point in time. When the things get slow and they have to go in a new direction, they'll hit that. You know, I understand the fact that they've really got to do something to bolster what they're doing with the newspaper. I think it's really a shame, and I'm going to say this at this point in time, and I know it's what people come up and say to me every day. This paper has had a large role in tearing down the fabric of this community. I see a difference in this community from 10 years ago when I came. The negativism that comes from this newspaper has been detrimental to this community, and I think it's something that needs to be changed. I'm not saying these things for me. I'm saying these things for the new person who's going to come in here. I hope that things change and that this new person is given a fair opportunity to be successful, is just given a fair playing field to work from. That would be a great improvement, and I hope that the newspaper gives fair consideration to that. Thank you.
Mr. Alloy, you did a wonderful job. You said exactly what I was going to say.
Only more elegantly.
And more. Because to me, this is the worst piece of tripe I've ever read in my life. And I really think that as a board, we should pass a resolution recommending that the Record Eagle get a Pulitzer Prize in fiction. Because I was upset when I read it. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't read it until Mr. Inman called me up and said, "Did you read that?" Because I don't usually read. I read their obits and their comics. And that's usually about it, because everything else is wrong.
Mr. Chairman.
And they said never go after a guy that buys his ink by the barrel. I ain't afraid of him.
You know, I guess I'm just going to say this, and, you know, when I picked up the paper and read that editorial, I felt terrible for Dennis Aloya and Rothschild, and how unfair those comments were to both of them based on the career that both of them had with Grand Traverse County during their tenure. And I was on board along with Sonny, Dick, and Herb, I think, when we went through the process to hire Dennis Aloya. I didn't even know Dennis Aloya's name. Ross, the Board of Commissioners back then told Ross that we would not use him as a recruiting agent, that he would remain totally separate from the process, which he agreed to do and said that is the right thing to do. He did not attend any of the sessions on selection. He did not attend any selections during the interview process or was involved or attended any of those sessions, and made no remark to me or to my awareness to any other county commissioner to recommend Dennis or any other candidate. This so-called pro quo, scratch your back, scratch my back, in my mind has never occurred. You know, I was just set back at the reputation of Ross Childs and all his giving in his position as county administrator and all his public service to our community, and the job that Dennis has done for his job for Grand Traverse County, and the blessing and the heart and passion that he put into his job here at Grand Traverse County was unfairly treated in that editorial. And I've never felt so sad, other than going through the 4 funerals of my family, for Mr. Childs and Mr. Aloya, after I read that article, and how inaccurate it was and how disrespectful it was. And I'm sorry, but I just have to make a public announcement that I thought they were both fairly disrespected, and there was no quid pro quo. Mr. Childs had nothing to do with Mr. Aloya's search process and selection, and in fact, Ross, when approached by the Board of Public Works, gave up his retirement, which was he was having a great time traveling around with his wife, enjoying retirement, and he came back as a public service, not only to our county, our board, but the Board of Public Works, and put his heart and soul into trying to help stabilize the septic treatment plant and all the other matters of the Board of Public Works based on his background as a previous county administrator and as an engineer. The other remarks regarding, somebody got a sweet deal on a promotion and those other things, I just wish they wouldn't have not done that. These people that work here in Grand Traverse County didn't deserve the remarks that were made in that editorial. They are hardworking, good people that have nothing but the best for the public good. And there's never been anything under the table or deal making or any other kind of situation that the public may read into that editorial. And I just want to say publicly, I'm just very disappointed in how they've positioned the editorial, and feel so bad for Ross and Dennis, especially when Dennis has decided to leave Grand Traverse County, and I would have expected something much kinder for all the attributes that he has given this community over his past 10 years.
We've been lucky to have both of them.
Larry? Does Commissioner Wheelock or Herb have anything to say? Because I'd refrain until they were done.
Yeah, I was part of the process when we hired Dennis, and I distinctly remember that Mr. Childs saying, I do not want to be part of this system. That is your decision as county commissioners, because you're going to have to work with that individual. And I feel very blessed that we have had Dennis here to take us into the direction that we have been taken into. We have directed him to do a lot of things with it during his tenure of Grand Traverse County Administrator. I think we are very fortunate to have the quality of person that Dennis has been for our community. It is just absolutely amazes me that somebody at our media cannot find anything positive to say about somebody who is leaving our community and would want to come back. Why would you want to come back? We're a community that welcomes people. We have our arms wide open. When people come to our community, we open our arms as wide as we can. The Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber of Commerce, all of our communities, we welcome you into our community. And now, we're tar and feathering them and kicking them out. What the heck is going on? That's wrong. Totally, totally wrong. And I just want you to know, Dennis and Jean, you're always welcome back to Traverse City, and we would want you to be here.
My comments are very simple. Larry's absolutely right. Herb is right. Ross had no input whatsoever through the selection process. Absolutely none. That was a very open process, and it's not just we, the commissioners, that have been fortunate to have them. but this community has been a fortunate family. Ross Childs was here 26 years. Dennis has been here 10 years. The average tenure of a county administrator anywhere in this country, from one side to the other, is 5 to 7 years. And we've had 2 in 35 years. You know, it's unheard of. You know, fortunately, I was smart enough 8 years ago when my daughter graduated from high school, I canceled my subscription to the Record Eagle. I've saved myself a lot of money and my blood pressure went down. And I absolutely refused to read it, and I refused to pay for it, and I knew nothing about this editorial until it was read tonight.
Larry?
Dennis, where'd you go? You know, I agree 100% on your presentation and your comments. I remember when they hired Childs, way back when. But you know, the Record Eagle, the people that write that editorial are chicken livers. They hide behind words. They don't have to justify them or anything else. When they talk about errors, an error in the community, the Childs Aloya era, why didn't they talk about when Virginia Olds retired on 12/31 of 2006? Why didn't they talk about her 16 years on this board? And then, who had she replaced? Her father, Clarence Klaus, who sat here for 20 years. So in effect, you talk about an error. We had an error, all right. We had representation in District 8 from the Klaus family for 36 years. And to me, that's very commendable. But do you hear anything? Margaret Underwood, when she retired, not a peep. Nothing when Virginia retired. Those people at the Record Eagle don't care, and they're going to continue to make all their articles misrepresentations. They don't stand behind them, and then they wonder why their chicken liver paper is so thin. It's a joke in this community what that paper has become. And Dennis, thank you for your excellent service. You're welcome.
Jason?
First off, I'd like to say, Dennis, wonderful presentation. Entirely accurate. I have a lot of friends that work for the Record Eagle, and they worry. And I've watched publishers come and go, and for other reasons that I could attest to, I have great disagreements with their editorial page. You said it about as well as anybody could, and I'm glad that you took the few minutes to do it. You know, the group that bought the paper, from what I understand, they're hanging on by a thread right now. And the mistakes they've made, I think, in the past is not recognizing that the publishers weren't the ones that needed to be replaced, but the editorial board in total. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, then move on to Commissioner Committee reports. Start with Larry and then Chris.
If I could just ask, if I could just make a remark and then and so Dennis knows how to balance out his schedule moving forward, is that if we do indeed schedule the strategic planning session for Thursday, January 26th at 7 p.m. You know, in our previous, since I've been on the board, since Dennis has been here for 10 years, he has really added and assisted us in that strategic planning process. And he has given us, as he should, as our chief executive person in charge of the day-to-day stuff and what we ask him to do. He's been just a valuable asset during the strategic planning process, helping us. He's not telling us. He's there to give us information so we can make decisions, and that's what an administrator is supposed to do. And he's been a very valuable person that has attended those strategic planning sessions. And so, you know, when we bring up items where where are we at with the 2011 plan? Where are we at with completing certain sections, and where are we at with carrying certain sections over, and what's important for 2012? Well, we're going to do a strategic planning session not only for 2012, 13, and 14. I believe we're going to do 3 years. I'm not quite sure on that. I think that's John Syka's, I think, recommendation. And then we're going to do an annual work plan. The fact that I just want to ask the board for your your confirmation on this, that if Dennis is available for that meeting, or I'm not sure what his schedule is, that we would want to make sure that he felt comfortable, even though he has given us notice, that he would feel comfortable coming into our strategic planning session as our county administrator during that period of time through his 45-day notice, and assisting the board when necessary, and when we would be available to ask him questions about a current staff's report on certain issues, or if we missed anything, or has some things to think about that he would be aware of, that make sure that we have all our bases covered as best as possible for our 2012 work plan, that the commissioners would have that sense of comfort, allowing him to attend. I want to make sure he has that comfort level as well, and making sure if his schedule permits. I don't know what his schedule is on that particular day or night, because he's got a lot of things going on with this, in his life with his transition decision. So I just need to get your input as commissioners about how you feel about Dennis coming into the meeting. And I think he needs to hear this too.
Well, I just want you to know, I told Commissioner Inman today, I won't be here. So I don't know how appropriate it is. I won't be here in 2 years, so I don't know how appropriate it is to participate. I just want you to know that if you want me there, I will be there, but I will not feel at all bad if you want to do it in your own direction.
Sonny, and then...
Well, at least in my perspective, Dennis, I think it's important that you be there. Because as we look at the 3-year plan that we're currently in, it's, yes, I have your written report at the end of 2011 of where we're at, and then the quarterly things of where we're at with each of those responsibilities. But things have changed since then or after that. I think it's important that we know exactly where we're at with those goals that we set, and how we've progressed with those goals. And you're going to have more information about where we're at with those than any of us. So I think it's essential that you do get there, and probably, the fact that you're leaving makes it even more important that you're there.
Rob, and then Jason.
I think it's very appropriate that this whole process is taking a lot of time and a lot of discussion, because this is one of the biggest decisions this board will make this year. You might talk about, building a new health department is a huge dollar amount, big decision, but the decision of who is going to be the administrator of this county could have a lot larger impact over time. And so I just wanted to say it is appropriate, all this discussion. And absolutely, with many advisors, does one succeed. Having Dennis there to give us some input, I think is a wonderful idea. I even think some of the key department heads would be good to get some of their input once we get down to the last round of interviews. I might not agree with them, but just to have that perspective, I think, is valuable.
I agree with what's been said already, and also I'd like to add that without you there, I don't know how we're going to be able to continue the Childs Aloya domination of our region.
Well, I have an answer to that. Actually, Dean was hired by Ross.
Right.
Ross was
Okay.
So it's going on
He's beat red.
No, another conspiracy.
It runs deep.
But we also want to...
Speaking for myself, I would certainly hope that you're in attendance.
I'll be glad to be there.
And I would say the same.
And I want to make sure that Dean, as the interim person coming in, he would like, if he can be there, and Jen Seaman and the rest of your key
planned
staff.
on attending. I just
We'll
need
have
you
key
guys to
staff.
determine the date.
Suppose we can pass cat licenses this year?
Got a lot of
We'll have a spot in the wall.
We need the revenue.
Did you have a committee report?
Yes, I just wanted to add a little bit on your question on Commission on Aging. We did note that there were some numbers that were questionable, and I'll speak to just one of them. For instance, home chore lists 816 clients in September, down to 173 in November. We are questioning these numbers, and I will bring answers back to the board.
Okay, well, I didn't question it as much as.
Well,
I thought it was
we're
very
wondering
interesting
about,
growth.
why this drop, and look at that wasp. Is that a wasp?
Yeah, that wasp is flying
around.
He was over here by me a little while
All right.
ago.
Flying around on me.
One or the
okay.
other of us was
I
going to move.
I can't see that far. That's all.
It's the
all,
record eagle
Sunday?
trying to see what's going on.
Okay, I guess the committee report that I would make is in regard to the solid waste management plan. As you know, the County Board of Commissioners passed that, and we are currently taking it to the local units. Bob and I have been a little busy. We have had it to half of the county or townships already. Half of them have passed. We have 8 passed as of this morning. Bob was going somewhere tonight and
Paradise.
yeah, he's in Paradise tonight. Monday night I was at Green Lake, the village of Kingsley and Mayfield Township. Last night I was at Long Lake and Whitewater. So, we are out there. Bob did Union and Blair last night. He's at Paradise tonight. He was at East Bay on Monday night. But, we are actively, by the end of next week, we will have the 2/3 that is required to forward it to the state. So, barring complications, by the end of next week, the solid waste management plan will be sent to the state for their review. We will still actively be taking it to the rest of the 16 local units. But we're on the agenda next Monday night, I believe, for the city also. So.
My biggest concern about that is you haven't gone to the largest township to get their approval on that. And, when I brought it up to the meeting last night, they were quite surprised that it was coming to them. So, I think that...
It's been on their agenda.
I don't think so.
Guaranteed.
It's been on their agenda.
I hand-delivered them copies, so there's no question that they've...
But I just, we just need to make sure it gets on their agenda ahead. I think it's important that they approve it before we send it down.
It's on their agenda for next week, and I is it next week or 2 weeks? Anyway, the schedule's in my truck, but I hand-delivered copies to them, so I know they have.
Just because you hand-delivered it to the supervisor doesn't mean it got to the trustees.
Well,
That's not my responsibility.
We are on the committee reports.
Well, we're still on committee reports, yeah.
Okay. I'll be brief. Peninsula Township meeting, they did preliminary approval of expanding the gift shop in the lighthouse. They'll be moving some things around out there, and they're also still trying to fix their budget misalignment as far as that goes. Also, one of the things brought up last night was the new fireworks law, and one of the board members has a specific complaint about fireworks all the time now. And they were asking whether or not it was something that we as a board could pass as an ordinance, and it appears not. So
Can't supersede state law.
right. So.
Okay, Rob?
I have kind of a feel-good commissioner story. You talk about what does a commissioner do, in a county commissioner. Well, as liaison to the Metro Fire Board, which is totally separate from the county, they have a training program that we gave them a grant to start, and through that a huge collaboration. The story just keeps on winding and getting bigger with people collaborating. The law enforcement officers, for example, need continuing education credits every year. And my wife, who is on the board of the Northwest Michigan Autism Resource Network, came up with a mission for their group to provide that training in an emergency situation. How do you deal with someone who is cognitively impaired, such as autism? If there's an accident or a fire. So they're providing this training in collaboration with Metro Fire's safety program. And I think a dozen or two of county sheriff officers are going to get their training at zero cost to the county. through this collaborative effort, and I believe the city might be sending some officers as well as firefighters are going to get training on how to deal with people with special needs in emergency situations through just just knowing the right people, and me knowing her and telling her the right people to contact. She was hitting some brick walls. I said, you know what, call Nate Alger. He's the undersheriff. If this is something of value, he'll tell you right now. And that just greasing the skids of how our community collaborates. That's what a county commissioner does, just by being at all these meetings and involved in all these things. So that's my report.
Okay. All right, any other committee?
Garfield Township gave out 2 liquor licenses last night, but I'm not sure who got them because I had to leave early. But they had 2 to be able to, because of the population, increase in population, that they were able to do that. So I'm not sure. There was 3 applicants for the 2 applicants.
You and I left at the same time, so.
Yeah.
Where'd you go?
Hey, don't ask.
Come on, Chris.
Any more committee reports? Are we ready to move on to notices?
I went with Herb.
Notices and adjournments would be
Yes,
good.
notices and adjournments.
Thursday, the 26th for the strategic plan, and
Well,
if there's
maybe.
no other, I will move to adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done.
Call you up.